Yo, what's up? This is your girl Dragon, and it's time for another Fortnite creative tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to save and load teams across rounds. And I do hope you find this tutorial very beneficial. If you do, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss more. Alright you guys, let's go ahead and jump into this one. It's going to be quite long and I hope you're ready to go. Let's get into it. Let's go! This tutorial will show you how to teleport teams to their team base by the round using a save and load technique. This is great for zone wars, team versus team, box fights, and more. Let's go ahead and jump into a preview of what we're going to be building today. You see players start in a pre-game area. They are able to choose their teams. And at the time they choose their teams are saved. Once the timer runs out, they're teleported to their team base. They can play their game, and when they are teleported, they're registered to a player checkpoint pad, and when they're eliminated, they will respawn back here, keeping them within their base. When the game is over, the round will end. Players are then teleported back to the pre-game area, but within 2 seconds they're right back in their team base. The loop continues, and let's go ahead and move on to round 3. And you see they're going to respawn right back here in their team base. And they're teleported right there. Now when all rounds have concluded and the game ends, the players will respawn back in the pre-game area and they'll be allowed to choose their teams again. This time I'll choose Team 2 and the other player will choose Team 1. For the remainder of this game, I should be respawning back in Team 2 base compared to Team 1. So here I'm in Team 2, and they are in Team 1. Alright, and it just continues to loop throughout the entire game. Alright, now we're at the last round. There you go, you'll see once we hit play again, it's going to continue this loop throughout the entire game. Alright, so now that you see what's going on, let me go ahead and show you guys the settings and also explain the structure. Let's do it! So you might find that this particular setup is a lot more stable compared to using player spawn pads. I did do a setup here using player spawn pads and I found it to be not as stable compared to using this method. That's because the player spawn pads can produce various results. When players spawn in, they're added to a global team. This is a time when they have a chance to pick their teams. During the same time, a pre-game timer is running, and when this timer runs out, it's going to enable a mutator zone that will teleport them to their team base. Once in their team base, they will be registered to a checkpoint pad, and a game timer will begin. When the game is over, another round will start. I then have a channel device that sends events upon round 2 and round 3. I also have a HUD message device that will display round 2 when round 2 begins, and round 3 when round 3 begins. In addition to that, when the rounds start, another timer will begin that's going to load the teams within 1 second. And then 1 second after that, it's going to teleport them to their base. Quick tip, if you don't want to see the game timer running, which you can see here at the top right hand screen, you can remove that by using the HUD controller device. And I'll also show you the settings for that. Alright, now that you know the structure and have a good idea of all the devices you're going to need, let's go ahead and jump into the settings. Alright, let's go ahead and start with the player spawn pads. Keep in mind to have enough spawn pads to cover all players that will be entering your map. I have one player spawn pad designated to Team 1 and another designated to Team Any. And here are the settings for the first one. For events, we're going to send an event to change the player to team and class, and this will be the global team and class. And we're going to enable the save point device. I have this assigned to the first player who spawns in the game, and usually the first player who spawns is designated to Team 1. For all the remaining players, the only difference is the player team is set to Any, and so forth. And the events, we're going to change player to the global team and class. Let's go ahead and move on to the class selector global. For my global class, I have them switching to class 3 and team of 3. That's because there's only 2 teams, and then the third team will be my global class and team. For functions, we're going to change player to team and class when receiving from the player spawner. You can see here for Team 1 and for Team 2. And that should automatically be binded. And there's no events. If you want your team name to display on the scoreboard, you're going to need a team setting and inventory device. I have the team name set to global and the team set to 3, and you can choose whatever color you like. If there's any special properties you want your teams to have, this is where you're going to put that. And there's no functions and there's no events. Next, let's look at the class selectors for Team 1 and Team 2. Starting with Team 1. We're going to switch to class 1 and switch to a team of 1. My volume is visible, but my base of the device is not visible. For functions, this device will be disabled when receiving from the channel disabler on receive transmit. For events, when the team is switched, we're going to send an event to the save point device to save the player. Now for the team settings and inventory for Team 1. Team name is Team 1 and team is 1 with a class of 1. I do have the spawn location set to spawn pads to override the island settings. And let's see here. Everything else is don't override. There's no functions and there's no events. For class selector Team 2, we're switching to class 2 and Team 2. For functions, we're going to disable when receiving from the channel disabler on receive transmit. And for events, when the team is switched, we're going to send an event to save the team on the save point device. For our team settings and inventory for Team 2, we have the team name as Team 2, a team of 2, and class of 2. Again, spawn location is spawn pads. And there's no functions and no events. Now for the timer. This is our pre-game timer that will start at the beginning of the game, and I have it set to a duration of 15 seconds. It will start at game start, and players cannot interact with this timer. It does apply to everyone, and so forth. You want to make sure you choose a time running text. You can place anything you want here. I have it set to choose team. And it's also going to show on the HUD. For functions, we're going to disable when receiving from the round settings device on round start, and this is round settings 2, and round settings 3 on round start as well, and then channel disabler when it receives a transmit. For events on success, we're going to send an event to the mutator zone to enable, and the timer device game start to start. And that's the main timer that starts when the players are teleported to their area. Next, let's take a look at the save point device. I have it set to gameplay only. We will not auto-save, we will not auto-load, and so forth. This device is only going to be handling saving the teams. And you can see that right here. We have save team set to yes. Save class is also set to yes. For functions, we're going to save player when receiving from class selector team 1 and class selector team 2 on team switched. We're not going to load the player until it is received from the channel disabler on receive transmit. We're going to enable the save point device when the first player spawns into the game. We're also going to load all players when receiving from timer device loader on success. So you see I do have two fail safes here. I'm loading the player when the channel disabler receives a transmit, and when the timer device loader is successful. Alright, let's move on to the HUD controller device. And I'm just using this device to remove the main game timer that shows on the top right hand of the screen. I have set show minimap to no, show HUD info box to no, show storm timer to no. We're going to show the player count, we're going to show the elimination count. The round timer is set to no. Round details is set to don't override, and so forth. For functions, we do not have any, and there's no events. Next, we have a series of round settings devices. And let's start with round 1. This is set to round 1. It is enabled on minigame start, and so forth. For functions, there's nothing, and there's no events. Now that all changes when we go to round 2. This is set to round 2 and it's enabled on minigame start. And you can see this is quite similar with the exception of events. On round start, we're going to send an event to the HUD message device to show that it's round 2, and we're going to transmit on the channel disabler. For round 3, we have it set to round 3 and it is enabled. And for functions, there's no functions. In events, we're going to show HUD message round 3 to show and transmit on the channel disabler. These are my HUD message devices, and you can take a look if you like. I have it set to round 2 and it's going to show to all the players. And you can kind of do whatever you like here. So I'm just going to kind of speed through that. And for functions, it should already be binded, show and receiving from round settings 2 on round start, no events. And then for round 3, it shows round 3. The settings are quite the same from the other HUD message device, with the exception of functions. We're going to show and receiving from round 3 on round start. All right, let's go into the very important channel disabler and let's check it out. For functions, we're going to transmit when receiving from round settings 3 and round settings 2 on round start. For events, on receive transmit, we're going to send an event to the prop manipulator 2 to hide props. And that's for the numbers up there in the pregame. The timer device loader to start. We're going to disable the class selector for team 1 and team 2. We're going to disable the timer device for the pregame. We're going to start the game running timer. And then we're going to also load the player from the save point device. Alright, so we have 2 timers here, and this only starts for round 2 and round 3. I have it set to a duration of 1. I wish there was like a 0, but that's as low as it can go. And the timer running text is loading team. And then for functions, we're going to start when receiving from the channel disabler on receive transmit. For events, on success, we're going to send an event to the timer device, and I called it loader teleport to start. And then we're going to also send an event to the save point device to load all players. Here's my timer device loader, and this is going to enable my mutator zone. I have timer running text set to teleport 2. And then for functions, we're going to start when receiving from timer device loader on success. And then on events, we're going to enable that mutator zone to teleport the players. So for mutator zones, I have 2. I have one for the main game and one for rounds 2 and 3. So let's take a look at the one for the main game. It is enabled on phase none and so forth. For functions, we're going to enable when receiving from timer device pregame on success. And for events on player entering zone, we're going to send an event to teleporter to teleport, and that's for teleporters team 1 and team 2. For the second mutator zone, and this happens for round 2 and round 3, again it's enabled on phase none and so forth. And I'm kind of speeding through this because you can kind of set whatever you want to happen here. What we're going to be looking at here are the functions. We're going to enable when receiving from timer device loader teleport on success. And for events when player entering zone, we're going to teleport players to their teleporters for team 1 and team 2. Alright, let's jump into the team base area. For the teleporter for team 1, I have it set to select a team of 1. Select the class of any. For functions, we're going to teleport when receiving from the first mutator zone for pregame. And then I also have the second one as stated for rounds 2 and 3, one player entering zone. For events, when the players are teleported, they're going to be registered to the checkpoint pad, and this checkpoint pad is for Team 1, right here. And you can see my settings here for the checkpoint pad. For functions, it should already be binded there to register when receiving from the teleporter for Team 1, and there's no events. For Team 2, it's practically the same, with the addition of it being selected for Team 2. We're going to teleport when receiving from mutator zone for the pregame, as well as mutator zone for rounds 2 and 3, when player entering zone. For events, when the player is teleported, we're going to go ahead and register them to Team's 2 checkpoint pad. So they respawn back here when they're eliminated. Last, we have 2 game running timers. And one is for round 1, and the other is for rounds 2 and 3. So let's go ahead and look at the one for round 1. I have it set to a duration of 60 seconds, which is 1 minute. And you can set that however long you want it to be. It should be set to no on the interact, and so forth. I have the timer running text as game timer, and I do have it to show on the HUD. We're going to start when receiving from timer device pregame on success. And that's it for that, and there are no events. For the second timer, and this again is for rounds 2 and rounds 3, we have it set to a duration of the same. Make sure it does not start at game start, and that goes for both of these timers. Timer running text is the same, game timer, and we're going to show on HUD. For functions, we're going to start when receiving from the channel disabler on receive transmit. And that's it. That's going to do it for this tutorial, and I hope it helps you out. If it does, be sure to drop a comment below. I'll be sure to check it out. In addition, you can support me by using my creator code in the shop. Be sure to drop it in. If you do, I really appreciate you. Alright you guys, that's going to do it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!